I'm doing great, even though every day's not fine. But still I woke up today, another day to get on my grind. Got me singing, whoa, whoa. Half worth on bills we're born ready. Whoa, whoa. Half worth on bills we're born ready. I'm doing great, even though every day's not fine. But still I woke up today, another day to get on my grind. Got me singing, whoa, whoa. Half worth on bills we're born ready. Whoa, whoa. Half worth on bills we're born ready.
Good evening and welcome to another episode of Between the Lines presented to you by Live Wire Sports. Tonight we have a very special guest on the show. His name is Mr. Callix Crabbe. Callix, how you doing today?
Mr. Richardson, how you doing? I'm doing good, man. I'm just here enjoying the opportunity to speak with some of my people and just conversate and fellowship.
All right, this is something big. We're glad to have you here. We just love every episode of Between the Lines we have. We know that we always have interesting stories, interesting aspects of life and sports here with our guests. So we are glad to have you here today, Callix.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so we're going to start this really quickly, get things rolling. Now, what sport did you play when you were growing up?
I was a multi-sport athlete. I played, obviously baseball was my number one sport, but I also played basketball up until my junior year of high school when I had moved to the States. I also even played co-ed volleyball for a little bit. So any sport, I ran track and field also. Any sport that I could get my hands onto, quite honestly, I wanted to do it. I didn't love school, and so I used sports as my motivating source. But then, obviously, as life moved on, my education and baseball it got tighter. So no doubt.
Yeah. And that's a very important thing that you said. I think sports is a very big motivational factor for students. There are students who just, like you said, don't like school, but they have to go through school to play sports, and that motivates them to keep going. And then it can transition into a love for school as well.
It does. Happen with me.
All right. So what island are you from exactly?
I'm from St. Thomas. I grew up, the first neighborhood I grew up in was Warren E. Brown. And then Hurricane Hugo in '89 had damaged the place, pretty well. And then they tried rebuilding, and then Hurricane Marilyn ended that one. And then after Hurricane Marilyn, did its devastation, then I moved to Ozo Harris Court, right across the street from Kmart. So.
All right. So you spoke about basketball being another big sport that you played. What made you choose baseball over the rest of these sports?
I was vertically challenged. I was, if I would be completely honest, I was a good basketball player. I wasn't a great one, right? Like I could shoot, I had decent handles, but also I understand some of the prerequisites that you need to be an NBA basketball player. And obviously with baseball, there's a lot more people that look like me in terms of stature, size. And so, naturally I wanted to kind of gravitate towards baseball. But the truth be told is I was a much better baseball player than I was basketball player. So if I was completely transparent with myself, I think I chose the right path.
Definitely. Now, at what age did you start playing baseball?
So my very first ever game, I was 8. But I had played catch with my my dad a lot whenever he had a chance to come around. And then I had friends in my first neighborhood, Warren E. Brown, that we would always play pickup baseball games together. And really my love for baseball and my skill development and acquisition really was developed there, hitting rocks and stones and bottle caps and popcorn seeds and black beans and my mother broomstick, anything I could get my hands onto. I just had an affinity for swinging. I still do. I'm an avid golfer, and what ties that in is really my love for just making a movement of hitting a ball. So yeah.
Now, one thing I could say about sports is finding the hardest way to do stuff makes you better. So hitting bottle caps, a baseball is way bigger than a bottle cap. So if you can hit a bottle cap, it's going to help you develop your hand-eye coordination, definitely. So putting yourself in difficult situations at a young age definitely helps you throughout the future and in your career.
I would have to piggyback that. I would say, you want to always strike a good balance on challenge and development, because you don't want to get to a point where something is so challenging that you encourage someone to quit. You want them to keep coming back, but you need them to be challenged just enough that they want to keep coming back. So there's like a fine line that you kind of have to strike, but definitely you're not wrong. And you'll find that most high level athletes oftentimes weren't afraid to challenge themselves and use those challenging opportunities to kind of elevate themselves and do so a little bit quicker than their peers, right? Like their willingness to look at a situation for as challenging as it is and just keep being motivated by that challenge is very necessary.
Definitely. I definitely agree with that wholeheartedly. All right, so with your first time playing baseball, being at 8 years old, what team were you playing on, or what organization were you in?
So, I mean, I was very fortunate, right? Like my father had a very good relationship with one of the most important people in my life, definitely from not only from a baseball standpoint, but from my love for just sport in general. Sam Daly was the coach of the Rebels, and my father had essentially had a deal with him that whenever he had a son who was capable of playing baseball, because my other brothers weren't necessarily very good at sport. They missed the athletic gene, but nonetheless, when I was born, he had told Sam that whenever I got to the age where I could play, his son would be playing for the Rebels, and it happened. So right around I was 8 and I was turning 9 in February, and the league had already started. So I went to my first practices down Frenchtown. I would walk every single day from Lockhart Elementary School, and I would walk down to the legislative building where Sam was a photographer for the U.S. legislature. And so I would catch a ride with him daily down to Frenchtown, and then after every single practice, after the field was raked up, everything was clean, dugouts was clean, Sam would always obviously take me back home. And so that pattern had held true all the way until I was 15 years old, and I had left to the States. Sam was an extremely important vessel in my journey. If I wouldn't have Sam, there's no question that my baseball and my life wouldn't be what I would say is a good life.
I know. I love to hear when we can speak about coaches that have been here forever, basically, because Sam has been coaching for well over 30 years. He coached you, he coached me as well. He coached my father. So I just know Sam as a great community person, especially when it comes to children. So definitely kudos to him and help you on your journey and the impact that he played in your life.
No question. I have a lot of thanks and appreciation for him, for sure.
All right, so let's get into a little bit of your junior high and high school career. Where did you play in junior high?
I went to Adelita Cancran, and it's funny. Obviously, in middle school or junior high, there wasn't an actual baseball program. It was softball when we were at Adelita Cancran. So, my journey again was interesting because when most kids are in 7th and 8th grade, they're playing full-scale baseball. And though I was playing full-scale baseball in terms of my team, we didn't have an actual baseball team, right? And so anyways, I also played basketball while I was there too at Cancran with some, Jabari Brown, a bunch of good players.
So you'll be glad to know that sports here are in full swing.
That's good.
Well, not this year, but we do have baseball at the junior high level. They actually play junior varsity baseball in 7th and 8th grade. So times have changed.
Times have changed. Times have changed.
So we are heading towards the right path of the future. We do have JV baseball playing here. We even have as low as we have an elementary league. So the children who go to Lockhart Elementary, Alamola, they also have a school team there. So we getting there.
So we're moving on up. We're moving up.
So there's baseball and softball. So a lot of sports are covered in elementary sports, and also I think the crop of athletes will continue to get better with the more opportunities they have to play.
For sure, for sure. I agree. I think that's obviously, I think that's the most important thing, right? Like a person can only go so far as the opportunity to present itself, right? Like, and then the next step would be is once they do have those opportunities, how do they seize those moments and capture as much of that moment as they possibly can, right? Like how engaged they are, not only when they're at that sporting event, but when they leave and they go home. Are they continuing their education? Are they continuing to practice mentally? You know, the many different things that you have to do in order to grow yourself as a full scale, you know, athlete. It's well beyond the field.
Now, jumping into your high school career, this is where baseball really gets started here for us in the Virgin, honestly. What was your high school career like playing baseball?
If I would be completely honest, I missed the first like 2 months because I didn't do a good job. Coach Todman had I was failing. If I'll be very honest, I enjoyed cutting class when I was a freshman. I had a sister Kashima that was an honor roll student. She was in every type of, you know, activity and leadership group as you can, and so I felt like she was doing more than enough for her and I. So I didn't do a great job, but nonetheless, and I wasn't doing anything like bad. I thought it was cool to cut class, which obviously it wasn't, right? And so ultimately, in my mom and Kenny and obviously my brothers and everybody, like I can't be taken advantage of, you know, teachers and not being respectful of their time and what they're trying to do in day in and day out. So as much as I had loved baseball, they took it away from me, and that really changed the way that I had looked at my my education. So you know, nonetheless, it was probably one of the best things that happened to me, because I started to realize how important it was to make sure that your school and your baseball is very aligned.
Definitely.
So
what was your playing career like? Did you guys travel often? Did you guys play a lot of games back then?
Yeah. Well, in terms of high school, Little League was unbelievable, right? Like I had a really good group of players that I played with. You know, Richie Clendenin, a very good friend of mine, Cadiz Shepard, my cousin Harleen Francis, Akeem Francis. I could go through the whole list, right? Like Levern Sorrow, a bunch of us that were very talented. And so we had kind of developed this, you know, this good unit. And so we traveled abroad a lot, right? So we went to Venezuela, Puerto Rico, you know, some other places. That's can't remember all of them. But in terms of high school, we only obviously could play against Udurican and Antilles High School. So at the time, you know, it was good. It was good that we had some games, but it was challenging in terms of like keeping momentum going, because you kept playing the same team over and over, but also you weren't playing that many games. I think my freshman year of high school, I don't want to tell a lie, I think we played like 8 games. And then my sophomore year, it was like 10. And that isn't including playing against St. Croix, but that was really only a weekend series anytime we were playing against St. Croix. So at the most, we're playing 12 games a year, which, as you know, isn't very conducive for development, right? So, you know, yeah.
Definitely. I can understand that. Now, where did you go to college, and did you play on scholarship in college?
I was fortunate. Whenever I graduated from high school, I had this idea that I really wanted to sign a professional contract, and you know, unfortunately and unfortunately, the team that drafted me really didn't want me to sign that contract. They wanted to, at the time, there was something called draft and follow. It was a system that Major League Baseball had implemented to give players that needed more time to develop, either from a maturity standpoint and a physical standpoint, time. And I went to college. And so Young Harris College was a very prominent private school in North Georgia. And I had actually reached out to that head coach, Coach Robinson, when I was a junior in high school. I knew that my opportunities would most likely be limited because of my lack of playing in the States and lack of exposure. And so I was willing to make the sacrifice and not look for a big time school to give myself the opportunity to play more games and develop my craft, right? And also it was nice going to a school that didn't have large classrooms. I was able to kind of focus a little bit more on what I needed to in terms of my core subjects. And so it was a good decision. Unfortunately, after my freshman year, I decided to leave for no reason other than the weather wasn't as good as I was hoping it was going to be, being in the North Georgia mountains, right? It was cold, snowy, rainy, a lot of long bus trips to different schools that we were playing. And so I decided to transfer to a school called Manatee Community College. And at Manatee, I had a friend that I had played summer baseball with. His name was Larry Grayson. Another friend, Mario Madeline from New York. And so anyways, I went down there and I had a chance to play in front of more scouts, new scouts, and who could form a new opinion of me, the player, right? Like I knew that I wasn't the tallest person. Obviously, I had good skill set. I had some decent tools, but the scouts in Georgia most likely had already seen enough of me to make a conclusion. And so for me, I always felt like I had a higher ceiling than what some people probably was projecting. I still believe I have a high ceiling. And so once I went to school in Florida, I ended up, I had a good season. As a sophomore, I performed very well. I hit over 400. I had, 13 or 14 home runs. I had like 30 stolen bases. I just put together, I'm modest, but I put together a really solid season, and I was an all-state baseball player on the junior college level. And so I had gotten a scholarship offer from LSU, and I decided to not take it. Two reasons. I had a bunch of classes that I had to take to get caught up to speed, but also I felt like that was the right opportunity for me to sign the contract and move on and play it. They paid for the remaining 5 semesters of my college through a baseball fund that the MLB has, and then I signed my signing bonus that they offered me, and so so I went to 2 different schools.
All right. So now, what team was the original team that drafted you?
I got drafted by the Atlanta Braves when I was 17.
See, Atlanta have a knack for finding great athletes. That's all it is. I'm a Braves fan, so I wish that you were still with them right now, but we'll let it slide. Now, what were some of your career games like in college? Like, what were some of your biggest games that you had?
I can vividly remember playing as a sophomore. We were playing Lake City College up in Lake City, Florida, and we had our team that day we were swinging the bat well. We ended up scoring like 18 or 19 runs against Lake City, and I remember I went 6 for 6 in that game. I had a double, so I had a single, a double, a triple. Excuse me, so I had a single, a double, 2 home runs, and another double. So that's the 6 hits. And I needed a triple to hit for the cycle, but the second home run that I hit went over the fence, or else it would have been a triple. So it was a nice day. A 6 for 6 day obviously is a career day. And I had some more good moments. So there's a lot. I don't want to sit here and like talk about all of the good moments that I had, but that was one that definitely like jumps right off the plate and says, hey, this was a good day.
Now, I know you had to make some adjustments moving from the Virgin Islands to the States for playing baseball. But what were some of the biggest adjustments you had to make on your journey from high school to college?
Well, I mean, obviously, college is different, right? Like you're learning how to create time management for yourself. No longer is your siblings around to tell you that you need to do your work. You're an adult now. So obviously now, I have financial aid money coming in. So now I have, every semester I have a $2,000, $3,000 check that's coming in. Now I have to learn how to manage that money instead of going and buying some Jordans, right? Like, so you have that aspect. Then you also have the aspect of having to perform, on the baseball field, and then still remember you're a student before you are an athlete. And so, there's challenges with that, especially when you have the kind of mindset that I had. Like I had full belief in my baseball abilities, and that no one was going to convince me that I wasn't going to become a Major League Baseball player in some capacity one day. And so I really had to work hard to make sure that I didn't put my studies aside too much to try to focus on the goal of making it to the big leagues. And so obviously that's like that. Those are some of the challenges that you have. And then I kind of hinted to it earlier, as coming from high school and then going to college. Now you're talking about playing against competition that's further away, right? You have overnight stays in hotels more now. You have people that might disagree with you on life. Like my experiences are very different from somebody else's. And when you're 17 and 18 and 19 years old, you're still very much a person who's kind of wet behind the ears. And so as you start to get more intel and more information from people that just don't see the world like you have to still be respectful of the different opinions. And I think early on in your life, when you're in college, that's the most critical time for you to either go right or either to go left in terms of like respect for people, right? Because people have assumptions about the color of your skin. People have assumptions of where you're from. I have assumptions on them. I think every person needs to understand we all have implicit biases that are kind of created from the time that you were born and then what you experienced through life. And so obviously as a student athlete in college, you don't necessarily have that muzzle anymore to somebody to pinch you and say you can't say that, right? So obviously those are some new challenges that you deal with when you go to college. I would say that I did well with it. I've never been someone that I'm open-minded. I speak my voice, but I've always been able to articulate what I needed to say and do it in a respectful way. So those are some of the challenges that you deal with from high school to college. Hopefully I didn't speak too much.
No, that's perfectly fine. We need our viewers to hear these kind of things so that they can use this to better themselves as well. So that's perfectly fine. That's a great answer, actually. All right, so I want you to talk to us a little bit about what sports has done for you in life. You spoke a little bit earlier about it helping you to get on the right track educationally. But is there anything else that sports helped you with in life?
I think I just hinted to it again, right? Like when you're a part of a team, there's obviously a common goal that a team has, right? Like a team wants to win the game, right? They want to try to get the best possible outcome collectively. And so as an athlete, you still have to remember that you're an individual and you have to be able to sacrifice some of your own individual needs so that the team can be successful. And I think when there's so many parallels and comparisons and microcosms to like life in general, like when you talk about in a classroom, right? Like even though most people don't view a classroom as a team, I view it as a team. Because if I am not paying attention to the teacher or I'm being distracted to another classmate, I'm taking away from their opportunity to enrich themselves. Yeah. And I have to be, willing to look at that and remember that. So I would say team sports in general has really taught me how to be sacrifice and give up some things that I personally might want or even need at a particular moment so that somebody else can get it. And oftentimes you find that it's even more enriching, more impactful when you can set yourself aside and make somebody else's life a little bit better. There's been times, I've always been kind of a caring person. I think if anybody's on this call with me, they would say that I have a respect and a true desire to not hurt someone's feelings. And on a team, there's many opportunities where you can hurt somebody's feelings, right? Like, and so for me personally, I take pride in somebody understanding somebody's heart, understanding what they need, and making sure that I'm available, right? Like, and that's the same thing that I do as a coach. I think we as coaches, we as brothers, we as sisters, as busy as life is, and as times we get so jammed and locked in our own selves, we do have to have the ability to like set ourselves aside and be available, right? So that's some of the lessons that I probably learned.
Now, we spoke about you being drafted earlier by the best team ever. What was that process like for you? Did you know you were going to get drafted? What was the moment like for you?
If I would be completely honest, I always felt like I would get drafted by a major league team, but I just didn't know who. But again, I'm a positive person. Like if you talk to anybody that know me, I'm probably overly positive, overly optimistic, which is okay. I don't mind being that way. But I would say like I definitely believed that I was going to get drafted. I just didn't know if it was going to be a real opportunity that I should have taken, right? So I kind of I was going to be honest with myself and say, look, I was probably going to be a late round draft pick. And then if I don't get drafted high enough, if the team don't offer me enough money or don't make the deal sweet enough from a school standpoint, I should probably go on and go to college. And I think it's like in business. There's always opportunity cost that you have to take. What are you giving up to gain? Mm-hmm. Is how I kind of look at everything. And so I felt like I was going to give up too much to just get one small opportunity my first year in professional baseball, even though, it could have been the only opportunity that I had. I just didn't feel like it was worth it. You know what I mean? I felt like if I believe in my talent enough, and I believe in my work ethic enough, and my resiliency enough, my thick skin enough, that I would probably get another opportunity one day. So
now let's talk about the minor league experience, because a lot of people see professional baseball as only the major leagues. But once you have signed a contract and you're making money, you're a professional athlete. No, it's completely different at the minor league level. There's not as much plane rides, there's more bus rides and stuff. Let's talk a little bit about that.
So yeah, that's a true story, right? Like when you think about the amount of hours that you spend on a bus, it's both good and bad in this sense, right? Like some of my best life stories, right, has happened because I had a 13-hour bus ride from Ogden, Utah to Wyoming, right? Casper, Wyoming, right? Or from Ogden, Utah to Great Falls, Montana, right? Like I've seen every state in the United States minus 3 states. And it's all because I've been on buses, right? And so it takes a special person to be willing to do that, but I'm also small, so I didn't have to take up too much seat space, right? But you know, it's different, it's challenging, right? Like you're talking about, you know, so dealing with the pain of sitting on in a seat for many, many hours, oftentimes choosing to sleep on the floor so that you can get some type of rest so you can be able to perform the next day and recover to some degree that you can be at, you know, half life, right? Your battery could be at half life. You know, it's some of the buses when you first sign, like they're not the nicest. And then it's like anything in life, right? Like as you start to move up certain levels and, you know, and statures, there's a different expectation that start to happen. In truth, I didn't know when I first signed, I didn't know that there were bad buses. It's like anything in life. When you're growing up and you're growing up in a hood, if you've never experienced anything in the hood, you feel like it's the best life that you live in. It probably is the best life that you live in, right? And so in my first few years in the minor leagues, I embraced it. I loved it. Like I loved everything that came with it. It was fun to be able to show up at a hotel at 3 o'clock in the morning, be hungry as hell, and go downstairs to a Perkins with 3 or 4 of my boys on the team, and whether it's have a couple of drinks or just communicate about our dreams and our aspirations. I think, you know, that's as holistic of an opportunity as you can have, right? Like it's all encompassing, right? Like dreams are good, and being on a bus daily, that's kind of all you were holding on to more than anything, because there's none of us could have guaranteed that we would have made it to the major leagues, right? The odds are clearly against you from the first time you decide to say you're going to play a Major League Baseball. So at the end of the day, what you should do in those instances is just really enjoy the moment. You know, appreciate everything that's good or bad, and know that at some point in your life, it's going to circle back around, and you're going to be able to use that experience. You're going to say like, oh, I see why that happened just now, right? And so the buses in the minor leagues was awesome. And then once I graduated from AA to AAA, it changed, right? Like you go from riding a bus in a Southern League to now flying from Nashville over to Tacoma, Washington, or from Nashville over to Portland, Oregon, or whatever the case might be. Now it's not private jets, but at the end of the day, it's still different. It still feels like you're making a step up, right? And so it's a whole nother step when you get to the big leagues, though. Everything changes now, right? Like it's funny, like you would think that the more money you start to make, the more you should have to pay. But once you get to the big leagues, it's the opposite, right? Like everything is given to you. The food that you're fed is 5-star type food. The hotels that you sleep in, obviously, like, I mean, I smile, but it's like you're living in a dream, right? Like you live in 5 diamond hotels, right? Like, you know, anyways, it's a cool progression though, I think. But at the end of the day, to answer your question without being long-winded, I think you learn to love it. If you want to make it to the major leagues, it's a sacrifice that first of all, it's not even a sacrifice. You got to do it. You don't have a choice. You ain't got no choice. But you got to make sure you have the right perspective when you're going through those experiences, so that you can capitalize on every single wink of an opportunity that you have.
Now, how many years did you play in the minor leagues?
I played from 2002, and so I had parts of like 10 years or something like that.
So you got very accustomed to this traveling lifestyle. I'm really interested to know these 3 states that you did not visit.
South Dakota, North Dakota, and Hawaii. That's the only ones I've never been to.
I don't think you're missing anything in North or South Dakota. You might
I
be
don't
missing
think so. Hawaii, I will make a trip to Hawaii at some point. My wife's still telling me I haven't taken her there yet, so that's probably on the bucket list.
At this point, you reached the 47. You have to just finish the last three. You might as well. Even if it's just 1 day.
I should finish it. That's true.
That's definitely an accomplishment that some people take. They take it as a big thing to visit all 50 states. So with that opportunity there, I hope that
I should do it.
All 50.
Yeah. I think you're 100% right. I might wait to do the South Dakota, North Dakota one, but I could probably find myself getting to Hawaii before those other 2 states.
Definitely. Now, can you remember the exact moment when you signed your first professional contract?
Yeah, I remember it clear. I had gotten drafted by Milwaukee on June 6th, I believe is what it was, of 2002. And at the time, well, my now wife, but at the time girlfriend, I was by her house in Bradenton. And then once I got drafted, I didn't have an agent. I did my own contract. And so ultimately, I was trying to stall to not sign a contract because I didn't want to get underpaid. Right. And so after about 3 or 4 days, the scout called me. His name is Tom McNamara. Good dude. He called me and he said, "Hey, I need to get you signed before you head to Georgia." And like I told him, I was like, "Hey, look, I'm going to Georgia tomorrow," because I wanted to go home, and there was a friend that was going to be able to fly down from Ohio to help me try to negotiate a contract. And so I had already left. He's like, "Why did you do that?" Like essentially, he was trying to sign me without anybody there because he knew. I mean, look, Tom, him and I had this conversation, so I'm not telling anything that is not real, but then I would have probably gotten less money than I gotten, right? I probably would have signed for at least 40% less than what I ended up getting. So it was the right thing for me to do. I needed somebody who could at least guide me and get me previous historical, data in terms of the person who got drafted in my round with my type of ability, yada, yada, yada. So anyways, I ended up signing a contract, I believe on June 12th. So 6 days later, I signed a contract. And then the next day or the day after, I flew out to Arizona for my first dose of professional baseball.
Now, what do you think you gained from having someone there to help you in that situation rather than signing on your own?
I probably had gained the ability to negotiate poorly. But honestly speaking, like it was a lifelong dream of mine. And so at the end of the day, I was totally okay with with not getting what I felt like I deserved, because I still had gotten something, right? Like I still got to be a pro. So I don't know if I learned a whole lot from that experience, other than make sure that when you negotiate a contract, you have some type of historical data so that you don't get underpaid. And then secondly, like sometimes it's important to just get the opportunity. I ain't saying sell yourself short, but don't. At the end of the day, my goal was to try to make all my money at the major leagues, not in the draft. You know what I mean? Like a lot of people are so caught up in getting, $1 million and getting 500, and then all of a sudden they're comparing, like cents. They're like, all right, so I didn't get 650,000. I really wanted 675,000. Like, what does that mean though? Like you're talking about $25,000 that the IRS man gonna take from you anyways. So it wasn't even worth anything for me personally. So.
All right, so let's jump into the meat of this conversation right here. What was that moment like when you received that call that said you're going to be called up to the major leagues?
Tell you what, it's a very vivid. Mine was different though, right? Like you have to remember, I don't know. So I had 2 opportunities, in my opinion, to have gotten called up to the major leagues, and I didn't get called up either time, and I was in the minor league. So in 2006. I got taken out of a game, and it was a final game of the year in like the 3rd or 4th inning. We were playing against the Montgomery Biscuits for a championship in the Southern League, and they took me out of the game. And I was like, why y'all taking me out of the game? This is like, we still have a chance to win. So at that point, I had this assumption that I was probably going to get called up to the major leagues. It probably was the wrong assumption, but so I didn't get called up. And then the following year, I had a really good year in AAA for the first time. And I thought it was 100. I mean, it was 100%, right? And so, you know, disappointment is real in life, right? Like we do things, we work as hard as we can, and it doesn't guarantee that you're gonna get what you want. You know what I'm saying? And like that was the probably the most, I won't call that a low point because I definitely don't think it was a low point. I felt confident that I was still gonna make it to the major leagues, but I definitely was sad that I knew I had done enough to get called up to the major leagues, and I didn't get called up to the major league. So it was a low blow. I mean, not to ego or anything. It was just like, man, like I thought this was it. I thought I did enough, right? And I didn't get called up. But I got traded to the Padres in via a Rule 5 draft, and I went to spring training, my very first major league spring training fully, and I made a team out of spring training. And how it happened is, you know, it was when you're a Rule 5 pick, you're essentially going to be the last person on the team. It's just, it is what it is, right? Like. And so I go to spring training and I have an unbelievable spring training. I'm talking, I played as well as anyone can play, right? And I'm like, there's no way that I don't make this team. If I don't make this team, I'm probably never gonna make it to the big leagues. That was like, and I wasn't being negative, but it was just like, this is it, right? And so I was competing against 4 guys. Adrian Gonzalez's brother, Edgar Gonzalez. I was competing against a guy named Luis Rodriguez, a very good shortstop. He was from Venezuela. And then I was competing with a second baseman. Oh my God, I can't remember his name right now. Matt Antonelli. And so nonetheless, I go through spring training. I'm playing well. I'm confident. I'm like, no matter what, I feel like I'm going to put myself in a good situation. And so the last, like people are getting cut, like cut. And I'm like, I'm still making every other cut. And I'm like, all right. And it's very easy when you see yourself looking like you're gonna make the team to start to protect a little bit. Like, so like I was playing fearless. Like I had nothing to lose, right? Like everything was icing on top of the cake. And I stayed that way all the way till the end. I said to myself, I will not get afraid. And I said like, no, this is my moment. I'm gonna make this team. I'm going to do everything that I can. I'm putting it all out on the line. And if I don't make it, I don't make it, even though it was scary. And so Rick Renteria, who is actually the manager for the Chicago White Sox, they just parted ways. But he was the infield coach and first base coach. And my locker was next to Greg Maddux. And I remember Mr. Renteria came and he's like, hey, and he called me Chiquito. Chiquito means like small. He's like, small guy, come over here. And I'm like, oh, here we go. They're sending me down. Like, I'm going to get cut. And so, Greg Maddux was like, good luck. And I go into the office and it sat me down and said, hey, look, you did everything that we asked you to do. We challenged you. We asked you to do things that we didn't think you were capable of doing. And every single time, you rose up to the occasion and you proved yourself worthy of an opportunity to be a Major League Baseball player. And we're here to tell you that it's going to come true. And so obviously at that point, like everything else they said, you didn't hear it, right? Like it was like numb. The first thing that I thought about was calling my mother and telling her like, hey, like, thank you for everything that you've ever done for me, every sacrifice that you've made for my brother Butch and Aloma and Gemma and, Afia and KK and all my nephews and nieces and like all these people that have always, kind of had my back. Mm-hmm. I wanted to make sure that they knew that me making it was validation that, family matters, like, and all of my friends and like coaches. And I call everybody, I call everyone that I possibly could call to let them know that this is their victory as well. And so, yeah, that's kind of how it happened. It was a special time. It's a time I'll never forget. I was the 16,895th player to have ever made it to the major leagues, right? Like, and when you look at Major League history, it's been 120 plus years of Major League Baseball in some capacity, and I was the 16,895th player to do it, right? Like, you take a time, you sit back, and you reflect on it. I probably should do it more often, if I'll be honest with you. I don't do it enough to remind myself like I did accomplish something that probably every young boy that has ever picked up a bat or thrown a ball or ran a base have wanted to do, and that's to become a Major League Baseball player. and I did it. And so, you know, I didn't have the career that I was hoping for, right? Like I wanted Porsches and I wanted, you know, a big house, and you know, some of those real dreams are still coming true. I mean, you know, I'm comfortable. Like, you know, I have a beautiful wife. I have two beautiful kids, like smart, funny. You know, I have a nice home. Like my life is still continuing to get better, right? But I probably wouldn't have wanted any other way, because I think along the way I've enjoyed the incremental growth that I've had in my life. Probably more than I would have enjoyed it or appreciated. I think the right word is appreciated it. If I would have had success that was, you know, quick and short. I'm still being molded into the person I think God probably wants me to be. My purpose in life is still continually, you know, shaping and molding, and I know that, you know, I'm not even close to being done yet. You know what I mean? So
Definitely. Now, on your journey to the MLB, how many years did you play at the major league level?
I had 48 days in the major leagues.
48 days. What was this batting average looking like?
And it's funny. I know. I mean, it's hard when you. So I had 36 actual plate appearances as a Major League Baseball player. The reality is I was 6 for 34, right? So if you think about it, I had another 6 balls that I hit hard that could have easily been a hit, right? And so if I was 12 for 34, this would be a very different conversation. Like I'm just under a 300 hitter, right? Or actually just over. And so I was 6 for 34, and it says that I hit 191. But the truth is I didn't get a whole lot of opportunities, right? And so that's something that I always remind myself of. Is like I didn't get. There's a lot of guys that get more chances than I got, and I'm not. Let me make it very clear. I'm not bitter at it. It's just how the dominoes fell in my life, and I'm okay with that, right? Like, so I don't look at the numbers to try to validate, honestly, the success. I look at the fact that, you know, I believe the 13th person. You guys probably can pull up the information from the U.S. Virgin Islands. So I made it to the major leagues at the time. I grew up in public housing. My mom, you know, I lived in Section 8. I was afraid to use food stamp when I was a boy, but it was my lifeline to to life. You know, I had good role models. My oldest brother, you know, Angel is, you know, he's my protector, right? Like, he's the alpha, you know, he's the alpha, you know, I'm the omega, or excuse me, the other way around. And like, it's just, I don't know, man, like I've had a good life. I mean, I really have.
And trust me, like one of the things that you said just now are what we need from you. Honestly, we don't really need to hear about your baseball career, but your inspiration that you came from public housing, that you are in Section 8, that you grew up in a hood, like that's real to Virgin Islanders here. So they need to hear what really happened in your life. They don't need to hear the glamour and the glitz. They need to hear that you came from the same place that they were and they could make it. You are a source of inspiration. You got in the major leagues just because of where you came from as a child in these Virgin Islands.
I mean, I appreciate that. I really like. I mean, I should do it more, but I have these reflective moments where I'm like, man, like I remember there was times after, you know, hurricane when like I was toasting my bread on the iron, right? Like when, you know, my brother was able to put on, or I mean, someone in the neighborhood was able to put on like a generator, right? Like I think back to like moments of this carpenter that was refixing Warren E. Brown, making me my first ever wood bat. And when he handed me the bat, it was a cricket stick, right? Like, and that was my first ever wood bat that was made out of a 2x4, right? Like I think of all of them moments, right? Where, and look, I mean, there's people that I went to school with probably on this call. I wasn't like, I'll be honest, I was a nice dude. I wasn't like a super popular person, right? Like, and I didn't care. Like I was always good to people. Yeah. I knew I was a good athlete, but I think that's the most important thing. There's nobody, and I am confident when I say this, I don't think you'll ever cross paths with somebody that has known me and said that I've mistreated somebody. And I take more pride in that than I do actually like having a major league career. And don't take me wrong, I'm proud of my major league career, but at the same time, like I think it's important. What your legacy really is going to come down to is how you've impacted the world, right? Like, and I want to, you know, I want to be known as like a good husband. I want to be known as a good son. I want to be known as a good dad, right? Like, anyways. I mean.
Yeah, so I definitely agree with you on that. it's bigger than sports. It's about you as a person. Sports is just the tool that we use to grow in life, honestly. So it helps you with certain aspects of your life, but our end goal is you're not going to play baseball, you're not going to play sports forever. Your end goal is to be an outstanding human being, and you definitely are well on your way with that. You got a good head start from time you were young, and we wish you success on that as you continue through that journey and that part of life.
I appreciate it.
All right, so let's jump back into a little bit of the baseball, though. Who are some of the best players you played alongside or you shook hands with after the game?
I think my most surreal moment is probably like when I got a chance to play with Ken Griffey Jr. Right, like it was. I mean, I almost bring tears to my eyes because as a boy growing up, you know, it's like he was the Michael Jordan of baseball. You know, he had the shoes, he had the gloves, he had the swag, he had the hat, and so there's not one person that that ever would not want to be Ken Griffey Jr. And when I was playing for the Mariners in 2009, he had re-signed with the Mariners after being with the Reds for like 7 or 8 years. And I just remember like saying, holy, like, you know, I'm going to get a chance to play with Ken Griffey Jr. And so I remember showing up to Major League Spring Training, and I walk in, and he was a very generous person. He was not the prototypical superstar. He would crack jokes on you, but he wasn't going to make you feel small. You know what I mean? And so I had a chance. I met him. You know, he was like, "Hey, I'm gonna take you guys out to." There was a couple of us young dudes, and he was like, "I'm gonna take you guys out to dinner. We're gonna have a good time." And so, like on multiple occasions, he had taken us to some really nice restaurants and spent $4,000 or $5,000 on food. Like it was, you know, it was fun. It was fun.
So that's a good story for me. I'm a big Ken Griffey Jr. fan too. So to hear what he's like in real life rather than just seeing him on TV, and I mean, you know, he has that smile that lights up the whole room. But to hear the good stories about him behind the scenes, rather than from actual like sportscasters, it's a different feeling. So that's a good feeling for me being a Ken Griffey fan to hear that he was a good person.
You know, it's in when you Ken Griffey, like everybody would call him the kid, and the reality is that Ken Griffey, right, like, is a kid. Like, he was like, hey, when you come back to Florida, we're gonna go paintballing. I never did it, but he's like, dude, I want to hit with you. I want to paintball. Like, he's talking about like, yeah, you got to come to my arcade that I have at my house, right? Like, so willing to bring others that, you know, to enjoy that, you know, or experience that life that he's able to live. And I think that's what most people, that true rich people, and I mean rich not only financially but rich in life, they want others to experience the same amount of joy that they might be able to create for themselves through their wealth, right? That's a real rich person. People that are rich and only want more and more and more and more and more, they ain't like, their life is not full, excuse me. They're on a whole nother, they're gonna get theirs. You understand? And so anytime that you come across a person like Ken Griffey Jr., it's extremely easy to fall in love with him, not just because he's Ken Griffey Jr., but like because like this dude genuinely was a good dude. So, and then I have some other moments. I had 2 of my career hits was off of Randy Johnson. I mean, I faced Randy Johnson 4 times. I was 2 for 3. I got hit by a pitch. My first career double and RBI was off of Randy Johnson. And so for me, that's something that I'll never forget, right? Like, I remember getting to first base, and after he hit me with a pitch and him looking at me like he wanted to eat me. And then, right, like, then I hit a double the next time, and then I get to second base, and like Orlando Hudson walking up to me. I actually knew Orlando Hudson a little bit from the off seasons when I was training in Georgia. And Orlando Hudson goes, "Hey, how's it feel to be in the big leagues, dog?" Like, and those moments, I mean, you'll never forget them. Even though they were short moments, they feel like they can extend over an extended timeline. And because you get to, when people ask me these questions, I'm not just going to tell somebody it, you know what I mean? But like when someone asks me this question, it's a nice opportunity to have some mental recall, you know what I mean? And even like, I think Mamba Rivera is on here. Mamba, remember Ken Griffey, he can attest to it. Like Ken Griffey Jr. was unbelievable, you know what I mean? Anyways.
All right, so what was your biggest accomplishment, for example, awards as a player throughout your career? It doesn't have to be at a major league level.
So it's funny. Like I'll tell you professionally, my biggest moment. I won the Applebee's Hometown Hero in 2007 for the Nashville Stars. It went to the player that did two things: that had a great on-field performance, but had done a great job, like being good in the community. Come say hello. Pull your pants down, boy. My son just showed up.
How you doing?
So it was that obviously that award was special because not only was I playing well, but I also was recognized for the things that I was doing day in and day out, away from the field. And then my very first year in pro ball, I ended up winning the MVP of the team, partially because Prince Fielder got sent up to the higher levels, and so that was probably given to me because I was next in line. But I still won team MVP for the Ogden Raptors, and then in college, obviously I made All-State. I just missed being an All-American, and then in high school, I was All-State twice, I believe. So, and then obviously Little League growing up, like I wasn't. Look, I know people say I was good. I don't think I was the best player on our Little League team, personally. I think I can go through a list of players, and some people have always disagreed with me. They always try and make it, but I think Kadish was probably better than me. Callix, you want to see me on the boy? Okay, I'll go back. Anyways, so like Kadish, was really good. Halim was really good. I mean, even Richie was good. Levron was probably, if I were to be honest with you, Levron Sauer was probably the most talented of all of us. And I would say it out in the open. He was just a little bit more crazy than all of us. Lev, if you hear this, I'm just being honest.
All right, so now baseball and life in general can take a toll on you. Was there any time you felt like you wanted to give up on baseball and not continue anymore?
No. I don't have a no. Oh no, I don't. I do not have a spirit of quit. I just don't. I think it's important for kids to like know that even if you don't make it, there's so much that you gain along the way that quitting, you lose way more. You know what I'm talking about? So like that should not be a part of it. Okay, hold on 1 second. Callix, you're gonna have to go inside, dude. Go. All right. So like quitting really isn't, it should never be in somebody's vocabulary, because you just give up too much. So even though you don't get the end goal that you might want, there's so much more that you might end up gaining just from experiencing it, right? And like that's I tell it to people all the time because I have parents I have friends, as a matter of fact, that tell me like, I just don't know if my son's gonna get any better at baseball, if it's even worth it. I'm like, I snap on them. Like, you want to see me get mad? Don't ask somebody to quit because you don't think they're good enough. We don't know the future. Somebody that's bad at 7 might be the best player when they're 16. Definitely. But if you as a parent deem that they don't have the physical skills or the talent at 7 years old, you are truly being a dream wrecker, and you should not be doing that. You gotta be honest with your kids, but you also need to not let them give up too quick. That can't happen. So, anyways, yeah. Hello, still there?
All right, so
okay,
yeah, can't hear you still.
So
we have a lot of athletes.
I was going to finish saying, so for me, no, quitting was never a part of the equation for me. I was very comfortable. If I wouldn't have made it, you would still see my face. I wasn't going to pull a brown paper bag over my head. I think at the end of the day, people would admire you more when you chase after a dream and you fail and still willing to show your face. So it wouldn't have mattered to me.
Now, we have a lot of athletes here in the Virginians that are good at baseball. Do you think we have the talent here in the Virginians to make it to the collegiate and professional level?
100%. I think it goes back down to, again, like the more opportunities that we can present for our players, both girls and boys, right? Like I know Richie Clendenin, he does a phenomenal job helping the softball girls get their opportunities to continue to play. So much big up to Richie. I respect him and I commend him for being someone that's willing to light that torch and try to carry it as far as he possibly can. And so I think at the end of the day, we as a community, we need to be supportive of our athletes in this sense, right? Like instead of using the words like, she ain't that good, he ain't that good. He shouldn't keep trying. No, no, no. You got to say, let's figure out as a people, like where are they best suited to go and play college or softball or college baseball or college basketball. It shouldn't always be about pros, right? Like if we really think about this, right? Like there's only so many people that's going to end up making it to some professional capacity, right? Like if we think about this, like honestly, right? And so I definitely believe that we have, not only the players, but we have a good ecosystem. We as a Caribbean people of Virgin Islanders, we're tough people. Definitely. Like we have been through a lot, right? Like we know what's up. And so I think if we as a whole, collectively, as a whole system, really have the right perspectives and we just provide a little bit more opportunity, right? Like try to get some college scouts there, focus more on the college side. And I ain't telling nobody to not dream. Let me make it very clear, because then I would be a hypocrite in saying that I knew that I believe that I could make it to the major leagues. But I would say there's a more likelihood that our college player or potential college players, right, like would have a better experience there. And if they become pros, they become pros. But at least they're going to get education, right? Like, so, yeah.
All right, so actually we're going to take a break right now and be right back with more with Callix with Between the Lines. Check out some of our commercials, dive into some of our products that we have here going on, and support Livewire. We'll be right back with more Between the Lines.
I'm doing great, even though every day's not fine. But still I woke up today, another day to get on my grind. Got me singing, whoa, whoa, effort, I'm built for bond red. Whoa, whoa, effort, I'm built for bond red.
Welcome back to more Between the Lines, presented to you by Livewire Sports. Callix, are you still here with us?
Still here.
All right, still here with us. All right, so we're gonna jump into a different aspect of your life now. Now, what was the moment like when you realized that you can actually be around sports for the rest of your life without actually being a player?
Look, I'll tell you a funny story. I think this will provide a little bit of context to like how important it is to know what your gift is, right? And so when I got done playing baseball in 2012, when I decided to retire, I had a small contract offer, kind of an offer from the Marlins, right? And they were trying to trying to decide between myself and another person um, who was coming back from Japan. And so that player was trying to decide whether they would sign with the Marlins or not. And if he wouldn't have signed with the Marlins, they would have given me a contract to go to Major League Spring Training and play in AAA, right? And so it was all good, right? Like, and so I decided to retire because he took the contract, and I was like, I was totally comfortable with the success that I had in baseball, right? Like, as it's funny, a lot of people remember me as being someone that lived and died baseball, and I did. I'll be completely honest with you. Baseball was, I would be in algebra class, and I was thinking about my swing, right? Like, I would be in like, I would be in like English class or Spanish class, and I'm like, I wonder how many swings I'm going to hit today, right? Like that. Those are the things that were going through my head, and so ultimately, once I retired from baseball, like I was like, I wanted to get away from it. As crazy as that sound, right? And I'm saying that because, like, it was really, it was taxing, right? Like your whole life you've committed to this process of trying to be a Major League Baseball player, and it's very easy to become defined and identify as a baseball player, and the world does that to you, right? Like the world, even to this day, when you're a professional athlete, they think that's all you can do. You understand what I mean? And so once I retired, I was like, man, I ain't gonna play. I'm not playing anymore. I don't want to coach. I don't want to do nothing with baseball. I want to be an air traffic controller. I want to go back. I'm gonna go get my finance degree. Like I'm thinking about everything opposite of baseball. And I remember my wife at the time. So I had my daughter Alana in 2010. So she's about 2 years. She is 2 years old. We just came back from a trip in Brazil. My wife is Brazilian, and so we went to Brazil to visit, her family and hang out and whatnot. And so, anyways, I remember being in the Miami airport, and I said, Amanda, I want to be an air traffic controller. And my wife said, what? No. You can't even remember when I need you to take out the garbage, and you're gonna try to keep track of planes in the air. Like, come on, dude, right? And so obviously, like, she was being nice, she was, making it a joke, but the truth is, at that moment, I'm like, what am I talking about? Like, baseball is everything. The way that I interpret the world, all my experiences, my ability to interpret and understand people, the language that I speak is, I've learned all of these things through my baseball experiences. I'll be selling myself short if just because I'm tired of baseball, then I'm going to completely cancel this whole previous history part of my life. Like, no, I'm really good at baseball. Like, and not just, I don't mean like playing. I mean, I'm good at teaching. I'm good at connecting with people. I am good at, even, a lot of people probably don't know. I ran my own company. Everything that I've learned has been because I've obviously played baseball, right? And so I come to the realization that I probably should be coaching in some capacity. Like, I didn't have any expectation that I would coach Major League Baseball. Like, I didn't. Like, I just wanted to make sure that I was going to be around the game of baseball because it was such an important part of my life and my happiness too, right? I just love watching somebody get good at baseball. I love somebody learning something new. I love when I see someone who's struggling with a particular concept, and then I have the ability to help them understand how to dig themselves out of a hole, right? Like, I'm really good at that kind of stuff. And so I decided, my former agent had reached out to a friend that he had that was working at a baseball academy called IMG Academy in Bradenton, Florida. And so IMG is a very big sports academy, 900 students, very, very talented players. And so ultimately I got a summer internship there after I got done. And that internship turned into a full-time position because one of the head coaches decided he was going to leave IMG. And so this was a perfect segue into a new life, right? Like, and I had no expectations. All I knew is I was going to be coaching baseball, and I was going to probably meet some really cool people because, obviously a lot of the kids that are going there financially come from well-off, from well-off families. And so sure enough, it turned into be a good experience. I as time went on, I started to like what most people that have a growth mindset, who are never okay with just being okay. Obviously, at some point, I was probably gonna think about doing something else. Even though it was a good job and a good opportunity, like I just didn't see myself coaching high school baseball for the next 30 years of my life, right? Like my ceiling again is too high, and I don't mean that in like a negative or excuse me in a arrogant, narcissistic way, but I do believe that like I had the gift to be able to run my own company and provide for myself financially, and so I opened up Crabology Sports Development. I partnered with a former co-worker from IMG, and I leased some space in downtown Tampa. And it started off as just a little novel idea. I'm going to work with some kids, and I'm gonna get them better. I'm going to teach the way that I want to teach. I'm going to do some public speaking, something that I do, in a Tampa Bay area. I work with, I don't do it anymore, but I used to do presentations to like high school students and about character and leadership and looking at, how do they handle their social media, what the role of an athlete is in society. And so as I'm doing all these things, people are starting to notice that like, I'm developing a pretty strong brand, right? And so I had a friend that I had played with, and that friend had gotten an interview to be the Rangers manager. And I started consulting with a lot of big league players where some guys would come to me. I would kind of help them on some any changes that they might need to make for their swing so they can, hope to make some improvements. So I had a few people that would reach out from time to time, some good players too. I mean, it wasn't just like, like no name guys. And ultimately what ended up happening is my former teammate and good friend got the manager's job, and he wanted to interview me for my position. And so ultimately I live so much in the moment, dude. Like I don't look too far ahead. And I think that moment after I retired from baseball, I realized that I can never be someone who needs to check boxes just to keep moving on, right? Like, and I think I told this to Mamba not too long ago. I was like, I think there's danger in just trying to hit certain, goals. There's I don't know if there's a famous author, Simon Sinek, talks about the problem in today's society. He talks about like it's hit the goal, get the figure out how much money to make, get a new goal, change the floor, make it higher. The problem is you get caught up so much in just trying to get one thing and one thing only, money, that you find yourself you lose your sense of self, right? Like and really along the way you don't get to even enjoy all the hard work that you put in. I believe in enjoying the fruits of your labor. Like when it's time for me to chill, I chill. If you come to my house, when I'm done with the day, I have hammocks. I'm sitting in my hammocks and I am going to chill, right? Like, and so ultimately as a retired baseball player, I said, I just gotta be honest with myself. Like baseball is very much at the core of my love and the core of my life, and the way that I've interpreted it's motivated me to become, educated. It's helped me really understand different personality types and different peoples. I've learned to influence people through my gift of being able to play baseball. Obviously, I know many people see a baseball player and they respect what they've been able to accomplish, and I use it, and not in a negative sense, but I use it to connect with people, and I do business deals with it. People, obviously, when you make it to the major leagues, it means that you've been able to sacrifice a lot. You've been able to you've worked hard. You've done a lot of things that many normal, quote unquote normal people wouldn't have had the resiliency to do. And so I said, I need to coach. I mean, and whether it was going to be public speaking, motivational speaking, or teaching somebody to hit, I was going to use a game of baseball to really facilitate and motivate people. So,
all right. So, what is your current career right now?
I have a cool job, man. I ain't gonna sit here and like pretend. I'm the assistant major league hitting coach, and so my job is to work with major league, our major league hitters on a daily basis, and even in the off season. We have a little break right now, so I'm chilling, but help them become the best versions of themselves. Whether they the organization believes that they can be an all-star or a regular play in the big leagues, my job is to be available for them and help them or give them what they need on a daily basis to be able to become, the best that they possibly can. So I mean, I help with, I help out with philosophical ideas. I help out with, evaluating potential traded players. I help with the draft whenever we're getting ready to draft a new player, first round pick, a high pick. Oftentimes they ask my opinion, whether they take it or not. It's their choice, but that's another part of being an assistant major league hitting coach is you're involved in the player acquisition part of the game, which is fun. Last year we traded for a player from the Tampa Bay Rays, and now as I asked, I was a part of that trade, I get to work with him on a day-to-day basis. So the acquisition portion and then now the development portion, now I get to see, was my assessment right and is my work good? You know what I mean?
Now, which professional organization do you work for?
I work for the Texas Rangers.
All right, so I definitely did my research. So let me get myself back on camera right here. Let me see if I can get it back up. I definitely did my research, and I realized that you coached the Texas Rangers. So I got a little surprise here for you.
What you got?
Really quickly. It's pretty old, but it does the job. Rangers. Right. Definitely supporting our VI people all the time. So I have my Texas Rangers hat on here. It's from about like 2005, but hey,
that's what's up. That's what's up.
All right. So who are some of the hitters that you work with that you said to yourself, this guy's a great hitter? Like, why am I having to work with him? Who are some of the great hitters that you have worked with?
So I'm in two capacities. So I've done a little bit of consulting work with Josh Donaldson, Denard Span. I've done a little bit of work with nothing crazy, but like Pete Alonso from the Mets. Obviously, the Rangers players, Joey Gallo, Elvis, Andres Rougned-Odor, Jose Trevino. It's a list of young and upcoming guys as well. Sin-Soo Choo, very, very accomplished major league player. One of the biggest growth mindset people I think I've met in the game. He's made over $180 million playing baseball, and he's very committed to improving even after signing a 7-year, $120 million contract, right? And so I've worked with quite a few. I mean, I don't need to run down the whole list, but I definitely I have a fun job.
So if you could give an opportunity to give a shout out to one of the best hitters that you know, who would that be? That you were able to work?
I won't do that because I think all of them, if I'll be honest with you, I think everyone brings something unique to the table, and hitting is, everybody has a skill set that they work off of that allows them to be successful, right? So when you think of hitting, you have to think of it beyond just the touching the ball. So you have elite thinkers, right? You have people that they know how to game plan. They know and understand what the pitcher is going to try to do to beat them, right? So they're good at game planning. Secondly is guys that make good, quick decisions with their eyes, right? So you have guys that don't have great swings, but you have guys that have the ability to see the ball well. We call that visual acuity, right? The ability to make quick and accurate decisions with the eyes, right? And so that's a skill that some guys might have. Then you have pure bat speed. I mean, Joey Gallo falls into that category where he has this immense ability. When he touched the ball come off at 100+ miles an hour, damn near every time that he hit the ball, right? And so I think to say, I think the better question would be is who's the best that I've seen, rather than who I've worked with, because I think everybody has something different. I mean, Mike Trout's, I've in two years that I've coached in the American League West, I've had a chance to see Mike Trout, at least 30 times in person. He never disappoints. Mookie Betts, you see him in the World Series. I saw him 2 different times. I saw him last year when we played them in Boston and actually in Texas. And then this year we played them when it came to Arlington to play us in Dallas. And like, he's unbelievable. I mean, they do unique things. They're different. It's just, they move different. They see different. It's like they're playing a game. They're playing a different game than everybody else, like a video game. You know what I mean?
So speaking of the ballpark in Arlington, you guys have a brand new ballpark. What is the experience there? What is that like being in that ballpark?
It's a special place. I mean, it cost the owners, it cost Ray and Neil $1.6 billion to build it. It doesn't disappoint. I think people have talked poorly about it from the outside because they have like this gray skeleton on it to kind of help with energy costs or whatnot. But once you get inside that stadium, it's in my opinion, and I've been to virtually every major league field. There's only a few I haven't been to, and that's the best one. I mean, it's better than Yankee Stadium. I don't want to piss off no Yankee fans, but yeah, it's I don't think it compares. Honestly.
Now, with the Dallas Cowboys being your next door neighbor, you have to go big. So I'm sure that was an inspiration for having such a large interactive ballpark there.
That's a very nice stadium too. I've taken private tours of that one. That's super nice.
Now, COVID is something that we don't really like to talk about often because it hinders a lot of people in life, especially the younger folks. But how has COVID affected your season?
It was challenging. I think when you look at the needs of a professional athlete, there's a couple of things that professional athletes depend on to function and make it through a season successfully, right? Like one is the ability to have outside outlets to get away from the fact that baseball is hard. Baseball is a game that you fail a lot. I think everybody understands the numerical outcomes of baseball and still associate yourself with being good. But with COVID, when we went on the road, we were unable to leave the hotel unless we were to speak to what was called a liaison, some type of liaison where you have to kind of let him know what you're doing. Forgot the name that they use, but you have to text him, hey, I'm going to go Walgreens. I'm gonna go get some deodorant, some toothpaste. So oftentimes, as a coach, I found myself buried in work. I found myself, writing down philosophies that I want to one day, if I'm ever interviewed for a major league coaching job, that I can be prepared for. I found myself, doing video analysis more often than not, and then players just couldn't go out and kind of let loose from the fact that they were just out there grinding on the field. You also, the norms in terms of getting ready for the day, you had to really do a good job of spacing out. You had to make sure that schedules were very structured, whereas major league players have earned the right to be able to kind of free roam and have a certain routine that helps them build up for the actual game, right? So there's a cadence to the day. There's you get there at a certain time, you go through a hot tub, you go through your pre-stretch, you go through your movement series, you come to the cage when you're ready, then you go out to defense. And so there's this cadence towards, that temperature build up towards game time. And guys just couldn't do it that way because we controlled their timing for good reasons, right? Like we wanted to make sure that we really didn't stop the industry, because the industry, as you know, needed to make sure that the games were completed so that the revenue losses weren't as significant as they probably would have been if we didn't have a game. So I think most of us felt the weight of that, and most of us took that very seriously. I think we understood that it wasn't just our jobs that were on the line, but there were people in the front office, there were people that were cleaning the stadium, there were people that, if all of a sudden all of these things are shut down and we can't put the product out on the field, no one gets paid, no one gets their money, and so it posed some challenges, but we made it.
All right, so this is a question I'm pretty sure that I know the answer to, but I'm going to ask anyways. Now, have you been able to do anything in the community as far as events, or will you be interested in doing any events back at home?
I've done some stuff. I think most people, I've done some stuff on my own many years ago. It was challenging, but I did some stuff with Jabari Blash, good friend of mine, great philanthropist. He has great ideas and visions for what he wants the Virgin Islands to be like. I've came and I've done radio interviews. There's a kid who's actually trying to get in contact with me right now from the Virgin Islands. He called me back and I was already doing something, but absolutely, I'm always ready. I think one of the most sad things for me, I think, is a lot of people, you know, don't ask. I think I'm not the type that's going to be like, hey, if anyone out there knows me, again, and I say this, I'm not like, I might be a big personality, but I don't put myself up in the front. So if anybody ever wanted me to do something, I'm always prepared. I mean, we'll have to obviously work something out in terms of timing and potentially, you know, me showing and, you know, you guys taking care of me. But I would definitely, I've always been interested in that.
All right, we definitely will keep that in mind here at Livewire. We might have some stuff coming up that we can get you involved in.
For sure.
Now, you spoke about working with kids and doing a lot of speaking at schools and stuff like that. What does that do for those children? What do you think that impact is that you make by doing those different community events?
I think here's the biggest gift I think a successful person can give in any industry is to show someone else that something is possible. I think when you see people that look like you and you see people that, you know, have came from the same environment that you've came from and have made it, it's obviously a very motivating event, right? Like it's when you get to hear someone's stories as well, and that person can do a good job of animating that story, bringing that story to life. It makes it even feel more real and more part of like what you're trying to do. And so, you know, public speaking is also, I mean, it's refreshing too for the person that's telling the story, right? Because the more times that you can relive your previous experiences, the more good things come into your heart and the more good that you want to come out, like bring out of your heart too, right? So, but no, it definitely is like, it's impactful for someone to hear the success of other people's story. I mean, when you look at some of the greatest, you know, work of arts and books, the Bible, I mean, they're a collection of stories, right? Like, and these stories are passed down from one, you know, one person to another. And these stories are guiding principles in many cases for how people should act and how people should think. And, you know, it's like a little playbook to help someone gain the experience that they need. So I would say it's probably the most powerful thing that somebody can do.
All right, so Callix, you have survived our interview process. Now we're going to head into a little bit of a interactive segment here. I'm going to be very honest with you. I was nicer before during the interview, but this section right here, I ain't really nice. If I don't agree with you, I ain't got to let you know why I don't agree with you. And at the end of the day,
we can have a debate. I'm always ready to debate.
Perfect. Let's get started then, all right? It's called A Few of My Favorite Things. I want to know, I'm going to give you a topic, and you're going to tell me your favorite thing of that topic, okay?
Sure.
All right, so your favorite color. Start off pretty easy.
So I have two colors, blue and gray. I actually love gray, but blue is probably my first choice.
All right, blue kind of starting to grow. You know, it might be the hat today. It just might be that.
All right.
Your favorite athlete?
Michael Jordan, Tiger Woods, Kobe Bryant. I have to choose one, or can I give you three?
I want you to choose one, but those three are some very good ones in there.
Michael Jordan, I think, is the one that has probably done it for me. Yeah.
You know what I like about that answer? All three of those answers, none of those are baseball players, and you are a baseball lover, so it's really crazy to hear that. But those gentlemen there are elite, above elite, so those are definitely some good choices. Your favorite musical artist?
In terms, you mean like, can it be a singer or a musician, somebody like that, or any artist,
either one
whatsoever.
Any
Luther Vandross. I love listening to some Luther. Marvin Gaye. I mean, I have Bone Thugs and Harmony. I'll go with Luther though.
Hey, that's a good lineup of classic musicians there. I like that one. Your favorite hobby besides sports?
My favorite hobby, I am besides sports, I'm an avid reader. I read a lot. I like debate, and so I read different viewpoints. I try to understand the opposing side's argument. So I read a lot.
All right, that's good. It's always good to read. Reading expands your knowledge, expands your vocabulary as well. So definitely reading is definitely something we preach to, especially children. All right, your favorite sports team? Let's hear this one. Besides the Rangers don't count.
Favorite sports team.
Yes. Of all.
Hmm. I mean, I would have to say the Atlanta Braves. Just not growing up TBS. I mean, I'll say the Braves. So, yeah, I could go with that one.
I love that choice. That's the best answer you give all night. Atlanta Braves, the best thing happening. Favorite academic subject in school.
I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed English. I early on I wasn't very good at math, if I'll be honest with you. But then when I went to college, I understood the concepts. When I retired, I went back to school and I actually got very good at algebra because I finally opened up my eyes. But I would say, to answer your question, I enjoy the Englishes and I enjoy the arts. So
All right, I definitely agree. School wasn't my favorite thing either, so I had like PE.
I made only A's in PE, right? So
If I get anything less than a 95 in PE, I had a bad
mad,
semester. All right.
100%, 100%.
Your favorite food?
I love so I don't eat any red meat. I've never eaten red meat in my life, but I do love fish and chicken. If I had to choose one or the other, I'm a huge fish fan. I like fish.
So what kind of fish are we talking about here? You can't just
Snapper. I like snapper. I like snook, redfish, grouper, yellowtail. I mean, any kind. Quite honestly, I mean, I like fish.
I was gonna say we could give you any fish and you can find a way to cook it.
I'll cook it.
Favorite sports movie?
Remember the Titans.
Hey, like lately I've been asking people this question. I'm hearing Remember the Titans all the time, and I love that movie.
Unbelievable movie.
I'm a real football fan, and then the story behind of Coach Boone is crazy. Just what he does at that time, being a black person, bringing together those two sets of people and making them one. I feel like if there was another coach in that position that was not of the same race or not him
It wouldn't have been.
not him, it wouldn't have been the same result. So
Nope.
he definitely is a legend, and he deserved to be in that movie. He deserved to be
100%.
recognized for what he did. And then on
100%.
top of that, you have Denzel Washington.
Denzel. Can't be mad at Denzel, dog.
All right, your favorite sports moment that is not in your life, that was not involving you. So something on TV, a game that you saw.
Tiger Woods winning his most recent Masters, his 15th major, after the long drought of majors and some of his personal challenges that he had, and his the loss of his dad. And I'm a big golfer now, but understanding what golfers go through, it's a challenging sport, and they are athletes. Believe me, trust me when I say that. And him winning his 15th major, that was a special moment, I think.
All right, so if Tiger Woods tell you let's go on the golf course right now, you think you could beat him in 18 holes?
I cannot beat him. No.
Where's the confidence? I want to hear yes.
Where's the honesty and transparency? I'm real.
All right, so we have reached to the end of our interactive segment, but we have something else here for you now, okay? We have some pictures that we're going to put up here on the screen. And we want you to say what was going on in this moment, or what do you think of this picture?
Okay,
all right,
go ahead.
Might get some new stuff, might get some old stuff. Let's see what we have here.
That's a good picture.
Going on here?
I was happy that we just beat the East. So I see Khalif, I see Fat Cat, I see Karish behind me, Seth, Halim, I see Jello to the right. Yeah, I see Richie up. Oh God, Richie, you actually skinny in that picture, man. That ain't the case no more. But, Petty, Sydney. No, what was I thinking? I was just happy that we just win.
Now, what year was this picture from?
This is probably 1993, 94, 93, 92 and 93.
That's definitely an old picture. I try to figure out what the camera to use here.
But what you will see is I'm smiling. That was always the case.
Now, which one are you? Are you here in the middle?
Dead middle. Right.
Let's move on to the next picture.
So let me find me. I think I'm kneeling down. Hold on, where I got to find me. Richie, Karish, Jello. No, I next to Jello. Okay, what am I thinking? Why the hell did I just miss that ball to cost us the opportunity to go to the Little League World Series? Yeah, so that wasn't one of my brighter moments, but it was still fun. I was in Venezuela.
So now, if I remember this correctly, you guys played against a couple of major league players in this tournament, correct?
We did. We did. Yeah, we did. I actually played against one, Guillermo Quiros, and then a pitcher from the A's. I never say his name right, but it's a P. And then there was one other person. I just can't remember the other person, but there was a couple players from that tournament that played Major League Baseball. Very true statement.
All right, so let's move on to the next picture here.
What was I thinking? I'm sexy as hell.
So when was this picture?
That was 2003 in the Midwest League. That was my first full season in professional baseball. We weren't allowed to have any beards. We couldn't wear our pants down. I was in good shape. I'm still in decent shape, but that was when I was 19 years or 20 years old. I wasn't even 21. Yeah, I was 20 years old in that picture.
That's 20 is old to me because I'm thinking he's 16 in this picture here with no facial hair.
That's funny. Good picture though.
And what team was it?
I was with the Beloit Snappers, and I was in Quad City Light. That was in Cedar Rapids, Iowa.
Iowa. All right, that's colder than the Volcanoes by far. So I know you had some tough times there.
Cold league, very cold league.
All right, let's move on to the next picture.
Why the hell am I back in AA?
So after you went up to AAA and got sent back down.
I got sent back down. Yeah, I had made a move from the major league team, and they needed a quick spot, so they sent me back down to AA for about a couple of weeks. So, but I was fine. Me and Mamba actually playing that team together. Mamba Rivera. That's when we had fun. Mamba, that was my partner.
I could just imagine what a clubhouse was like with two VIP people on one team.
We went hard, and Mamba went real hard.
Listen, when VIP people link up, it was a good time. It was a good time. Always a good time. But I can imagine how you had that clubhouse VI style.
Hard, trust me, hard.
Moving on to the next picture.
All right, that was in big league camp with the Mariners. I was probably talking to Ken Griffey at the time. I'm smiling, so it's probably talking to Ken Griffey.
No, you still look a little young here.
I wasn't young. I was 28.
Hey, look like you might be going backwards in age here, man.
I was about 28, yeah. 27, 28.
All right, so this is the Mariners batting, what is it called, batting jacket. Do you still have any Mariners gear or any gear from the Padres?
I have all my gear from every team. I gave it to my son. My son is a huge baseball lover, so anything that he could throw on, even if he's swimming in it, he wants to use it.
All right, so let's move on to the next picture.
I just hit a triple for sure. If you see me looking up like that, I hit this ball good.
Time this ball come off the bat, you're looking at it, basically ready to go.
I think in triple, right out the gate.
And what team was this and what state?
I was in Nashville, Tennessee, and it was in AAA with the Milwaukee Brewers in Nashville Sounds.
What was this season like here for you, if you can remember?
I had a very good season. I think I just missed making the All-Star team. Eric Patterson had a little bit better numbers than me. And then I think I slugged like 460. I had a good year. I had a really good year.
All right, let's move on to the next picture.
Clint Everett, one of my former teammates, good former first round pick, had some elbow injuries. Him and I were probably talking about the fact that our careers are getting ready to end here at some point.
So you're up in age here.
I was 29. I think I was 29. And so I had a really good time on this team. It was a very talented group of players. I was definitely the resident old man on this team. And so I think our shortstop was Danny Echeverria. We had Travis Darno was our catcher. We had a good team. Yeah. I was in New Hampshire, Manchester, New Hampshire.
All right. So let me see. What else do we have here loaded up for you?
Huntsville Stars. I had a good season that year too. That was a good year for me. I had my best ever fielding percentage, actually close to best ever at second base. I had like a 990 fielding percentage or something.
Wow. And this is your card from that year, correct?
Correct.
Do you still have your baseball cards?
I have all of them.
All right. So you hold on to history pretty well.
I have to. I have to. No, I mean, people. I want to make sure people believe me.
Hey, when you get up in age, though, trust me, and you're coaching younger kids or even your kids, you be like, "Yeah, Daddy, you weren't really that good," but you have evidence here to prove that you were.
I have some. I have a good library.
All right. Let's see what's the next picture we have here.
I was hitting 122, and I'm trying my best to fake it till I make it. So yeah, I didn't have a good season that year. I had a little tailspin. I had a little rut. Rut.
The real question is, how long did faking it till you make it last? So long.
I fake it all year long because I ain't play very good that year.
Now, which team was this?
I was with the Mariners in AAA.
Mariners in AAA. All right, let's move on.
That's a good one. So that's spring training. And as you can see, I love my players. That's Willie Calhoun, very talented player that we have. I feel as if we are playing against, I know that's the Anaheim Angels Stadium. I know those seats. And I think Willie just hit a double. And that's why he came over to tell me he crushed the pitcher. So.
Now, was this year? Well, no, it couldn't be this year.
No, this was this year. Oh, wow. Spring training, when we first started, it was fans.
All right. See what else we have here loaded up for you.
Oh, that's a good one. I was playing shortstop in Arizona, playing against the Diamondbacks.
Now, how did you feel about this uniform?
I actually thought they were fine. Look, any major league uniform, it could be teal, it could be pink. I don't care. Let me, you know how you feel. Once you wear it, feel good.
Right.
You know what I mean? It feels
so
good.
With you being a Padres player from the past, what do you think about their new uniform, this brown thing they have going on?
Actually, look, I'll be honest, I don't mind it. I've seen it in person. They have multiple different combinations. I mean, is it the color I would choose? Probably not, but I see what they're trying to do. They're trying to combine the old with the new.
Right. I think it's a new look, and the way
they play good. They're playing good with it. They're good.
Sometimes you just need a new jersey to inspire the team to play better. 100%. Get away from the past life of the team and get into something new. It motivates them. So that might be that they needed to get that rolling.
Yep.
All right, moving on.
I made that play. It was a backhand. We were playing against the Mariners in spring training with the Padres, my first major league spring training. And so I backhanded, and I think I jumped and I threw it across the infield.
Now this play right here, I'm sure it's something like you said, you won't forget. You know exactly who you're playing against. You know exactly the play.
Yeah, I remember that. I actually remember that play very, very clearly.
All right, and the runner was out, right? Because he was safe. It's no good. All right, out. Moving on.
So that's Tony Beasley. So that's not me, but that's Odor hitting a home run against, I believe, the Angels, because we're wearing the powder blues. We won the Waters a couple of times. So yeah, I'm in the dugout here. So that's actually Tony Beasley, but nonetheless, Odor just definitely took us ahead in the game.
And that's a interesting uniform right there too. So
I like it.
You need to wear that one a little bit more.
I have that jersey in my man cave right now.
All right, and moving on to the last picture we have here of you.
It means, I mean, obviously our country, we're dealing with a massive human rights issue. I think, for me, Black Lives Matter is a call to action to let people know, whether you believe in the organization or not, that the lives of Black Black men and women has never mattered. And in order for other people's lives to matter, we have to make sure, we were treated fairly and equally, and we were respected as Black individuals, Black and brown and Caribbean people, right? Like, so no, for me, this picture means a lot. A lot of people probably, think it's it's political, but they just don't get it, right? Like they don't understand. They don't understand the lives that we live. They don't understand the challenges that we have. So yeah, it's a human rights issue more than anything.
This picture is really, really deep, and I'm glad that we do have the opportunity to hear your words on it. And that shirt is powerful. The meaning behind it is powerful, and I'm glad that we have this picture here to get out what needs to be said. It needs to be said all over the world. So it's not only in America. We need it to be said here in the Virgin Islands and here in the Caribbean as well. So we're glad that we have this picture and for you to be able to speak on this picture.
Yeah, that's a special one. I have, we as an organization, we had many conversations leading up to this particular moment. We knew that not everyone on our team, from players to coaching staff, would agree with the decisions that some of us made. I was extremely comfortable with my decision to represent the Black Lives Matter movement. You don't have to agree with every single thing that the organization might do, but one thing that is very clear and is very much at the forefront of their vision and their mission is that we bring awareness to the fact that Black and brown people aren't treated fairly, and it doesn't mean that that we aren't treated, that white people in particular, not everyone is against that, right? Like it doesn't mean that all of them believe the same thing, but it means that an overwhelming majority of people need to just be more aware of what Black and brown and Caribbean and Hispanics and everyone that are minorities, that what we go through. It's to have to try to validate our stories to people who don't think that some of our experiences are real, obviously is the reason why we have to make these statements that we have to make. If people would just understand and trust us, don't tell me the data says one thing. The data doesn't tell every single story. Every story of a Black male that's pulled over and harassed by a police officer, and obviously I respect police officers and I value what they do. So I'll make that clear, but it doesn't mean that the bad officers out there shouldn't be called out. And just in general, how we have to try to defend ourselves. It's not good. Our lives need to matter in order for everybody else's lives to matter. You know what I'm saying?
All right, so we're actually going to take one more short break, and we'll be back to wrap it up with more Between the Lines presented to you by Livewire Sports. Don't go anywhere.
I'm doing great, even though every day's not fine. But still I woke up today, another day to get on my grind. Got me singing, whoa, whoa, effort on Billboard ready. Whoa, whoa, effort on Billboard ready. but still I woke up today. Another day they get on my grind. Got me singing, whoa, whoa. Effort, I'm built for fun, ready. Whoa, whoa. Effort, I'm built for fun, ready.
All right, we are back with more Between the Lines. Callix, we just want to thank you for being here. We have one more segment for you before we let you go and get back to your family and stuff like that. So we have our viewers who sent in some questions for you, and we want to make sure that we get these questions answered for our viewers, okay?
Let's do it.
All right, so one of the questions is, your old teammate seems like he came out to harass you tonight. Who is the toughest pitcher that you have faced?
Toughest, I mean, I faced Felix Hernandez many times back in the day when he threw 1,000 miles an hour. It felt like it. I mean, I faced a lot of good people. Zach Greinke, Tim Lincecum. I mean, I faced some good ones.
All right, so he also asked, who is your favorite golfer? But I'm pretty sure we know what you're going to say.
Is everybody's favorite golfer is Tiger Woods.
Definitely my favorite golfer.
I do have some others, but he's at the top of the list.
Now, who are some of the others that you really like, that you really follow besides Tiger Woods?
I follow. So I met Matt Kuchar. I've actually hit golf balls with Matt Kuchar before. So he's definitely one of my favorites. I do enjoy watching the Rory McIlroy play. I haven't met him yet. I would anticipate that at some point I'll probably get to meet him. And then who's another one that I like watching play? I like watching Dustin Johnson play. So yeah, there's more, but Tiger Woods is at the, I mean, he's at the top. I mean, I have seen him play too, so that's been fun.
All right, so Jason J. Carlos Reed asks, who was faster, Callix or Rudy Yan?
So Rudy Yan was a former teammate that I played with in DR. Rudy was faster than me. Everybody think I was fast, but I wasn't as fast as people think I was. I mean, I knew how to get going, but after I got going, my legs slowed down fast.
So do you remember your fastest 60 speed that you ran?
I do. I think I was a junior in high school, and I ran at a tryout. I ran a 6.67, something like that.
No, I'm not sure with baseball how that works. I'm good with football.
That would be considered like it's not a 4.3 in football, but it would be like a good running back number or something, like a 4.5, something like that.
All right, not bad. All right, Mumba also asks, what was the last book you read? This is when you mentioned that you like to read a lot.
Well, I'm currently reading a book. I'd rather not say what it is. It's a political book, but it's written by a former Republican who was a part of the Reagan administration, and he's talking about what he's seeing in today's world of conservatism. And he's still a conservative, but he's shedding some light on how the Conservative Party could have gotten to the place that they've gotten to now, so that you can understand what we're seeing. And he provides a very straightforward narrative on some of the issues that the Republican Party is dealing with right now.
All right. And Dwayne Krauser asks, how did you transition your swing from baseball to golf?
Everyone makes the assumption that baseball and the golf swing is very different. It's really not that different. So when you think of and I'm gonna get technical for a minute, but when you think of the movement patterns that's associated with the baseball swing, they're very similar to the movement patterns that are associated with golf. From the way that your ankles move underneath you, to the way that your hips rotate, the pelvis rotates up. When you look at really good hitters, their belt buckle turns up as they're swinging. The difference in baseball and golf is the ball obviously is stationary, so you have to have the ability to create the right amount of momentum before you decide to pull the club back. And obviously it's a bigger swing arc, right? Like, so you're talking about a more vertical type move. So as you work, the club works back up. Baseball is more on a flat plane, and there's multiple planes that you have to deal with. But you'll actually find that a lot of baseball players actually turn into really good golfers with a little bit of time, right? Because they obviously have the hand-eye coordination component. The harder challenge for a baseball player is learning how to square the club face. And a lot of the times it's really what's happening with your hand, not what's actually happening with the club. So. All
right, so golf is definitely the sport that I'll retire go to. So might end up being the most popular sport in the world at some point.
I'll be honest with you, it's a very good game. It's until you've played it, you think it's silly, but then when you actually go play it, there's a game within a game, right? Like there's nuance to it, right? Like you have to have the ability to quickly adapt and adjust, and really be able to develop golf IQ. And golf IQ is very much about making decisions. When is the right decision to do something depending on what's in front of you. So it's much more than just hitting the damn ball, actually. Definitely. A lot more. Yeah.
So I can attest to that because I played at Top Golf before, and after a while I realized that I can't aim. I just started to hit the balls really hard. As far as I can hit them. Now mini golf, I could deal with mini golf because you're going hole to hole, basic. But to go on an actual golf course and hit, it's not happening for me. It's not happening.
Oh, you better give it a try one time.
All right. This is from Mumbai as well. Since becoming a hitting coach and instructor, what is one thing you figured out you wish you knew as a player?
Look, there's certain absolutes in hitting that I think no matter what your thought processes are or what your beliefs are, there's certain things that have to happen, but there needs to be, to answer the question, there needs to be an understanding that there's an element to feel that leads to a reality for somebody. And I think the older I've gotten, I've recognized more and more and more how to try to work within a person's frame of reference as it pertains to feel, and then help prescribe whatever drills I need to help that person feel what they're trying to feel. So I would say that it's, what I've learned since becoming a hitting coach, that feel does matter, even with some of the absolutes that you might try to teach as a hitting coach, and you need to make sure you're working within that person's frame of reference.
All right. We definitely want to thank you for coming on, but before you go, we want you to give a message to our young athletes that could inspire them and motivate them to keep pushing even in difficult situations so they can eventually reach their goal in life.
I keep it simple usually when I answer this question. I would say to them, the answer that you're seeking usually doesn't show up until many years later down the road. And in order for you to get some of these answers, quitting cannot be an option. You might miss your golden opportunity when you're 40 years old to have figured something out because you quit too soon. So I would say to them, just be willing to deal with the good and bad of their journey. It's worth it, I promise you. And I don't mean worth it in the sense of just financial reward. It has nothing to do with that. It really has everything to do with the fact that it's about experiencing things. Life is truly about that, right? Like money come, money go.
All right, so we actually got some late questions here from some of the viewers. CJ the Illest asked, how was it facing the big unit, facing Randy Johnson? How was it for you?
Richie, hold on. Let me answer this Richie question, right? He said, playing on the Rebels in Little League, who was the one team you always look forward to playing? Richie, you know the answer.
Who was
Richie, that? He know we beat them all the time. So he know who it is.
Sound like twins.
Yeah, he know who it is. He and Jello and all of them, Khalid. Y'all all right.
Which team was it?
Twins, you know who it is.
I had a feeling.
And then you said, what advice would you give little leaguers about hitting? I would say, that's a lie. Sorry. So I would say the advice that I would give little leaguers about hitting is understand there's different stages to development. I would want somebody to first learn to develop the love for the game. And as they develop the love for the game, then they can then begin to transition into some of the more technical aspects of the game. I truly believe the reason why I kept getting better at baseball was because I loved it and I kept wanting to come back. So I would say to them, make sure that they fall in love with it. And I know he's talking about hitting, but I would say in order for them to get better at hitting, they have to develop their hand-eye coordination, and also their ability to and I know this is technical, but learn how to control nerves at a young age. Because when you get to the major leagues, it's too late. It's really hard to control the heart rate, the arousal that you tend to feel. And most people that haven't played sports won't understand what that feels like. It's a different thing that happens to you. Mamba and some of the guys that have played, on a professional field can attest to this, right? Where all of a sudden, as you find yourself with your back against the wall, what tools and what mental tools are you going to be able to use in order for you to really be able to to handle it? Because it's not necessarily about your skill. Like your skill is your skill, but when the heart rate speeds up and you get into this fight or flight mode, if you can't slow the brain down, your skill is gone. Right. There's nothing that you can do, right? Like that's very, very important. So I would tell parents, teach their kids how to become indifferent. You know what I mean? Like the good and the bad, treat them equal, right? Like oftentimes see parents, and look, they should get excited when their sons or daughters do something well, but they got to be careful to not glorify certain things that can lead to actually other issues, right? Like when your son or daughter is really good, don't only talk about the stuff that they're good at, because that person's going to become accustomed to hearing good things, and they might think that they don't need to work hard anymore. So I would say to them, make sure that they encourage an attitude of continuous learning about the craft of hitting, or the craft of defense, or the craft of pitching, but don't give them too much credit for being good at it, right? Don't because then you're going to end up creating the type of mindset that isn't going to want to continue to learn. So I mean, I know I just gave a long answer, but I think it was important.
All right, jumping back to CJ the Illis question right here. How was it facing the big unit?
It was fun. It was everything that I ever dreamed of. I remember as a boy growing up watching Randy Johnson throw the ball over Larry Walker's head and John Kruk and all of these lefties, and then it made it even more real that I had made it to the major leagues at that point, that I got to face Randy Johnson. And so for me, I didn't. I'm being honest. Like Randy Johnson wasn't throwing 99 miles anymore; he was throwing 95, right? Mm-hmm. So there was a slight difference, but at the same time, it was still facing Randy Johnson. So there was still some nerves to it, right? Like you wanna get a hit off of him so you can tell people the story. It was fun.
So no, did you get those 2 hits off the fastball, or was that nasty slider that he had?
I hit one off of his slider. He hung one at my back foot, and then another one was off of a high fastball.
Great. That's 2 quality at bat to sound like right there. All right, and our final question from Dwayne would be, who do you think is going to win the World Series?
So I'll tell you who I want to win. I want the Rays to win, but I think the Dodgers are going to win. The only reason I say it, and I think the Rays are going to win tonight. I actually do think so. I have a couple guys on that team that I know, and one that I've worked with specifically who's in the lineup tonight. So I want them to win. The challenge that I think they're dealing with is the depth of that Dodgers lineup. That Dodgers lineup is really good. We saw them this year. They see the most pitches per at bat, I believe, in the big leagues, and they also slug and they don't strike out very much.
Now, if the Rays end up, regardless if they win or not, Tampa Bay has a great sports atmosphere right now. The Lightning have won the championship in hockey. The Buccaneers have Tom Brady. They're off to a really good start. They're in the World Series right now, and they're going to host the Super Bowl in February. Tampa Bay, Florida is on fire right now.
On fire. That's why I live here.
Now they have Callix. That's 5 things they have right there. So Tampa Bay is in a great situation with sports right now. And if they win this World Series, I think this will be one for the ages.
For sure.
All right, so before you go, we just want you to give a shout out to any organizations you have been a part of. I'm talking about Little League or after school, any of your coaches.
I mean, there's too many. I would be here for a long time. I would keep it as simple as this, right? Like Sam Daly, I have great thanks for what he's been able to do for my life. I have, cousins, Delano Brown Pressure. Everybody I don't call him Pressure, Delano. I grew up with him. He was a great, inspiration. We were good friends. We had our dreams together. I have obviously my family, my mom, my dad, my brothers, sisters, my nieces, nephews. All of them have played a role in this, and I took it serious to be a role model for them. Try to continue to make good decisions in my life so that they have somebody they can look up to. Obviously, IMG Academy, all of the teams that I played for, the Rangers, like there's so many people that and organizations that have been so inspirational and allowing me to say that I'm somewhat successful, because I think that I still got some ways to go, and success is in the eyes of the beholder anyways. Whether I was a hitting coach of the Texas Rangers or not, I would consider my life to be a success. I've beaten a lot of odds. I think I'll continue to beat them still. But I'm grateful, man. Kenny Todman. I mean, there's so many. Michael Butte, and names that there's a lot. I was saying Sydney, and I can go down the list. Definitely. I can go down the list. So, anyways.
So again, we want to thank you for coming on. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule, because we know you're pretty busy. Thank you for joining us here. I
do want to give a shout out to my one partner, Akeem Francis, Harry Jack. He's my sparring. Him and I meant to say that I didn't want to cut you off, but he's someone that our dreams started at Warren E. Brown together, and him and I talk still all the time. He's a special individual from me, and so I'm proud of him too. I know Akeem didn't make it to the major leagues, but Akeem played collegiate baseball, and he's been a very good example, and also someone that's came from some dark places. He lost his mom when he was 9 years old, and he was a little crazy dude growing up, but now he's a great family man. And look, we're tough people. So anyways, I just wanted to give a shout out. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No problem there. All right, so again, I want to thank you for coming and taking time out of your schedule to share your story, to inspire the youth of the Virgin Island, and to give back here through your stories, through your passion, and through your word. All right. So thank you for coming on. Live Wire fans will be here next week with another special guest on Between the Lines, presented to you by Live Wire Sports. Before we go, we want to give a shout out to our executive producer, Lorena Robinson, our visual and technical director, Shane O'Neill. Want to give a shout out to Leo III Sibley for our introduction track. It is called Born Ready. You can find it on all streaming platforms, Spotify, Apple Music, wherever you download music, you can find that song. It's called Born Ready by Leo III Sibley. I want to thank Al Clark for our introduction video from Brilliant Designs. Thank you guys for watching. I will see you guys next week for another episode of Between the Lines.
I'm doing great, even though every day's not fine. But still I woke up today, another day to get on my grind. Got me singing, whoa, whoa, effort on bills we're born ready. Whoa, whoa, effort on bills we're born ready. I'm doing great, even though every day's not fine. But still I woke up today, another day to get on my grind. Got me singing, whoa, whoa, effort on bills we're born ready. Whoa, whoa, effort on bills we're born ready.